How's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to Friday night. It is the Earthmaster out here about 8:30 p.m. California time, April 18th, 2025. Latest activity shows looks like a 1.9 here, hiding in the green flag out around the Permian Basin of Texas there, out in the oil fields. One of the latest quakes on the globe. Let's go ahead and check out California here real quick, starting down in the Southern California area. Still got a number of earthquakes outside of the Julian area. This is a region that had a 5.2 earthquake here a few days back. Still seeing some aftershock sequences, although it looks like the number of counts are going down. I do see one earthquake there on Japan. We'll check that out here in a little bit. But for the most part, things, at least in this specific area, tapering off slightly. Still got some movement along the San Jacinto Fault Zone and also over here around the Brawley Seismic Zone. Up north, around the Garlock Fault Shear Zone, tapering off as well. And this could taper off here for a number of days, number of weeks, and then we may see another increase in earthquake activity out here. It may just be today, and then it might kick up tomorrow. It just comes in waves and little patterns out here across Southern California. Out in Nevada, getting a number of earthquakes outside of Yerington. This area had a 5.7 earthquake last year, so they're still seeing aftershock sequence there in that area of Nevada. The Bay Area, pretty quiet. A little surprising that we have not had any notable earthquake activity around that region in a number of weeks. I mean, mostly smaller microquake activity around there, but with all this movement down south recently and a lot up north, I would expect this area to fill in. But so far, we have yet to see anything around the Bay Area. One earthquake up here on the Cascadia subduction zone that is associated with the subduction zone at that depth, 26 miles deep. Not a surface fracture here. This is the subduction zone 2.5. Rather interesting there. It's, again, 26 miles deep into the Cascadia subduction zone. Let's show you here on the oceanic crust map. And that, pretty much center of the Cascadia. I'm kind of curious to see what the tremor map here looks like this evening. Let's run over here real quick and see what we have for tremor. 64 epicenters of tremor, not volcanic tremor, but tremor here, slow slip events. 64 down at the southern end of the Cascadia. Nothing here at the center portion, but again, a rather interesting earthquake there for 2.5, 26 miles deep underneath this area. A little bit of activity stirring up in Washington as well. Got Mount Rainier showing some smaller earthquake activity, and also, eastern side of the Seattle fault showing some further movement up here as well. Got the latest one, a 2.4, about 12 miles deep here, just off the eastern area of the Seattle fault zone. Here's a couple other earthquakes as well along the eastern area. 1.3 and a low 0.9, so things are kicking up a little bit out here across Washington State, and in general, looks like around the Cascadia subduction zone. There's not a whole lot happening offshore there along the Cascadia, but those deeper quakes there into the Cascadia, obviously a sign that things are straining out here. Into the Wyoming region, a couple smaller earthquakes out there, including around Jackson. Last night, I had a 3.9 earthquake coming in there. A couple more aftershocks in the area. We'll go ahead and double-check the Yellowstone overview real quick and see what we have. There's last night's 3.9 showing up on the map. Looks like there was an earthquake over here around Maple Creek, fairly well-defined on that map, on that graph here. So I'm wondering, it may have just been another 2.9. It may be that 2.9 from this morning. I don't really see anything over here that would trigger that type of event. So we got 6:25 in the morning. That would probably match the time frame. So there's the 3.9, there's the 2-pointer. But still down there in the Jackson, Wyoming area. All right. As far as local activity, as you can see here on the map, not a whole lot going on there across Yellowstone. It is sleeping as we want it to do. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity, local anyway. Further out and about here, there's the oil fields out in Texas getting hit. One earthquake around Mentone, Texas, out in the desert. A lot of oil wells out here. New Madrid seismic zone, awfully quiet, nothing major going on. And around the Caribbean plate here, a number of earthquakes in the 3 and 4 range. One of the latest, a 4-pointer out here around the Barbuda area. Over here across that subduction zone. A couple earthquakes up here around the Puerto Rico Trench as well. Nothing major going on there for now. But as always, that can change. It's a highly active area. Alaska quite active. Look at that. A lot of earthquake movement up here in the last 24 hours across Alaska. Goodness. We got 84 earthquakes. Mostly ones. There's some threes out there. But it's spread out all along the Aleutian Trench here. So that means that things are on the move here across the subduction zone. Pacific Plate and the North American Plate boundary here showing quite a bit of activity. I can't recall the last time it looked like that. So things are on the move. Obviously, the strain of the Pacific Plate moves off to the northwest here. There's that subduction zone up here. As we get the plate in movement, well, the slip rate accumulates higher over here across the western edge compared to areas on the eastern edge. So that is putting the strain right over here, right on the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. And it looks like it's starting to show here a little bit. A 5.4 earthquake earlier this morning, just before noontime. And there's also some other earthquake activity around there that USGS is not showing. It looks like a 5.4 and a 4.8 northern end of the Kuril-Kamchatka. Some happening down south here with a 4.2. Bunch of earthquake activity around Japan, and some just shy of the Nankai Trough, that 3.5 there. So watch these quiet zones, right? That kind of jumping over that main area of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, which is pretty well primed for some large earthquake activity. If I recall here in the last 7 days, we had this super deep earthquake here into the Kuril-Kamchatka, 5.9, over 200 miles deep there into that subduction zone, with no resulting shallower earthquake activity. So it's building out here. I'm telling you, there's a definite possibility we could see some larger activity here as far as megaquake activity on that subduction zone soon. Same with the Nankai Trough here, getting a lot of activity bouncing over it, occasional deep earthquakes into that subduction zone, but this is fairly well primed as well for some large earthquake activity. And when the Pacific Plate is on the move like that, kind of moving off to the west-northwest, got to watch those areas of interest, right? That can definitely stir up some big earthquakes out there if things decide to go. Keep an eye there on Japan north and south. Let's see, still some movement around the Papua New Guinea area. This region obviously been dealing with quite a bit of larger activity here, 6.1 up to the north, and a handful of 4s and 5s out here as well. Just quite active along that area, just around the Solomon Sea. Down across the Fiji area, some older activity. New Zealand's been somewhat amplified here today as well, with a bunch of smaller quakes. I was just checking that out here on the GeoNet servers. Got kind of a line of activity out there around the Alpine fault. Now, the Alpine fault is a sleeping giant, similar to the Hikurangi subduction zone, right? Two different types of boundaries, but they cover New Zealand. And, of course, down here across South Island here, we got the Alpine fault. And that fault system there has been showing quite a bit of earthquake activity here recently. And here's just a little bit of information on the Alpine fault here. It looks like the last major earthquake was back in 1717 with a magnitude of roughly around an 8.1. Now, that's a lot of time that has passed. There's actually an incredibly high slip rate that occurs here. The average slip rate in the fault central region there of the Alpine fault is about 38 mm per year. That's an inch and a half a year. Imagine how much strain has built up there at an inch and a half a year since 1717. So the likelihood of seeing a large earthquake here is quite great, with a 75% chance of a big earthquake occurring in this area before 2068. That's a fairly high probability, and it has been showing, quite a bit of activity there recently across that Alpine fault. You can see it. Let me see if I can show you guys here on this map. This is a little bit better view of it. Right here. Obviously building up those mountain ranges and and creating the strain out there for the next big earthquake. So New Zealand, a very active area. If you recall here, a couple weeks back, they had some movement down south, just off the Alpine fault. Let's see if I can pull that one up. Down here, just off the Alpine fault. So this is the area, obviously, we got to watch pretty closely. That's the one that's building up for an 8.1. 6.7 back here on the 24th of March, just off the Alpine fault. And with everything that's been happening around it here recently, you know, we're pretty well primed for some large earthquake activity out here, folks. Not only in New Zealand, but, you know, many areas around the globe here. With things in motion right now, you got to be prepared. There's a lot that can take place out here. You know, it could happen, you know, tonight. It could happen in the next 20 years or so. But, you know, that's a decent probability of seeing some larger movement down there. Typical movement there across the crunch zone. That's the Taiwan area southward. That's just a region where, you know, a lot of stuff happens there in terms of the plates kind of pointing all in that same direction. Notice the arrows there, right? All showing a crunch zone. Not the official name, but I consider it a crunch zone because there's so much earthquake activity that occurs there on any given day. 3s, 4s, and 5s are, in fact, very common there on any given day. Taiwan southward through the Philippines into the Indonesia Islands area. A little bit of movement up here around the Myanmar region. That's where that 7.7 earthquake struck here a number of weeks back. Still seeing some 4-pointers out there. A little bit more elevated here in the last 24 hours in that region. Hawaii, let's go check out Hawaii real quick, see what we have going on there at the Kilauea Volcano on the big island of Hawaii. Looks like, wow, are we still up there? We have not popped yet. I was expecting this to stir up sometime during the day today, but according to the inflation chart, the eruption has not happened yet. Let's go check out some webcams here, see what we got. Still quite a bit of volcanic gases there from those craters. I don't see any signs of any eruption, but it can happen with little to no warning. And the latest update here, let's see what we got. This was put out today, Hawaii time, 9:22 a.m. They're stating here that the fountaining phase here of episode 18, that's how many we've had here in the last couple months, rinse and repeat cycle. Although this one's lasting a little bit longer in terms of the amount of volume of magma below the area as far as accumulation goes. So it might be quite spectacular once that fountaining gets going. Most likely to start sometime on Saturday or Sunday, but could start as early as today or as late as Monday. That there is from the USGS site. And, you know, how do they know that? Well, they look at the same stuff I just showed you guys there on the deformation data. A very useful map when it comes to figuring out, you know, when the next eruption could take place. Although, again, like I said, this one's much longer in length as far as the daily amount of accumulation of magma there. But we're above the previous level seen, right? This is leading up to an eruption. There's the eruption that lasts for a very short period. That's the deflation of magma from below. And then we build back up again. But this one is, it's building. That's why I say it might be a fairly spectacular, neat-looking fountaining once it gets going there. So that's on Kilauea Volcano. Far as, let's see, what else we got around the planet here. 2.5 out around the, I don't even know where that's at specifically. Looks like it might be around France or Italy area. Or maybe around Spain, excuse me. Either way, things are somewhat quiet out here. Not a whole lot going on. Just a couple 2s and looks like an occasional 3 around that area. One earthquake out in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, 4.8. USGS showing that earthquake as well. This is the area that had a number of 6-pointers out here in the last 30 days. And following those 6-pointers, goodness, that it really stirred up the plates out here, set into motion, so to speak, with a number of 7s, even some 6s out there as well. That was the this is the area down here that really set things into motion. So we got another earthquake there. We'll watch and see how the plates behave. But hey, you know, it's been pretty active out here. Got to be on guard. There's a fairly deep earthquake underneath Columbia. That was early this morning, though. Really nothing new to report in that area. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on things here, see what happens. All right, space weather. Anything major going on? I heard we had an M flare. Look at that. A decent M flare. Almost an X flare. That's a fairly hefty M flare. Look at that. That came off of a far side sunspot there on the eastern limb. Unnamed yet, southeastern limb. Beautiful flare. Looks like it reached up to an M4.4. That is an area that we've chatted about here in the last couple videos, far as an area to watch. Let me bring up the latest magnetogram image here. Don't see it yet. And it's not these little weak areas, and it's not any of these regions either. In fact, really not all that concerned with any of these groups here, this sunspot group. What's going on is way back there on the far side of the southeastern limb, and maybe another one it looks like up there on the northeastern side of the sun. And we can see those on the far side watch. This is from today. It looks like it's going to be this area back here. Maybe this sunspot region. It doesn't look like much on here, but it's possible this could be a sunspot that's actively growing. And it could be quite active here in the days ahead. Once we get a little bit better perspective of it, we'll be able to see what maybe it's what it's made of in terms of complexity. There's the magnetic arches there. That's again, that's way out there, not even on the visible side of the sun yet, as far as the Earth-facing side. But we'll keep an eye. Again, not too concerned with this area back here, but once we get those other regions back in the Earth-directed view, then things may be getting active here with maybe some stronger flares. Right now, 5% chance there for X flare. That's what the solar ham site has. 40% for M flare. No major auroras in the forecast for now, folks. Things look pretty quiet with respect to that. Storm Prediction Center, as far as severe weather goes, looks like that's continuing through the evening there across portions of southern plains up into the Great Lakes states, it looks like. Fairly lengthy potential, maybe some tornado activity for the remainder of the night, early Saturday morning, wind and some hail threats in there as well. As far as the storm reports go for today so far, looking a little light. There was one tornado report, looks like, up in Utah? Oh, goodness, I wasn't expecting that. Pictures from social media indicate a land spout tornado. Okay. So not officially a tornado, but a land spout tornado. So there's a different definition there, and a whole different outcome as to what causes that tornado. But that's the only one being reported. Some hail reports up north, but it looks like maybe this was starting to turn into a not so much of a severe weather day, which is good, right? As far as the folks that live out there. I was looking at the long-range models here. I do like to show these on occasion because they've been very consistent. And as we get closer, it looks like they're continuing to stay consistent here. Around the, looks really around the 25th here. Things really ramp up around Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas area, and continues there into the first week of May. So watch for that. Things could get quite active here for severe weather potential. This model is only loaded 3 frames, so really not worth checking any of that. I'm trying to think if that's it, folks. I think that is about it. We'll just keep an eye on things out here. I mean, a little break there in earthquake activity in Southern California. It comes and goes. That's one thing I've noticed, though, in the last year. These little pauses and quietness. But I don't think it's going to stay like that. We've been, way more active here when it does really start to kick up than years past. So, as always, I think, there's strong probability of a bigger earthquake happening when things are elevated. But don't let your guard down. Also make sure you download that MyShake app. A neat little app. It's free. It's ad-free. There's no ads on it. It doesn't bug you unless you want to be woken up from an earthquake in your area. If there's say, for example, that 5.2 that struck down here in Southern California, folks got a notification roughly within the shaking moments there. A lot of times, though, you can get 15 to 20-second notifications far as to expect shaking from an earthquake if you're around that location. But, it's not perfect, but it does give you a little heads up far as the probability of expecting some shaking. I know the magnitudes were way off on that last reporting of the 5.2, that 5.2, right? The Julian area. Originally, it put out a notification of a 6.7. Folks in Arizona got that, and they never felt anything. So, like I say, it's not perfect, but it's a neat little app to have on your phone. It's free, and I've used it a couple times up here. I felt that 7-pointer up in Northern California here last December. It gave me a 20-second notification. Also, when I was up here around the cabin up in the Mount Lassen area, doing some R&R time up there, getting some R&R in, I should say, we felt that 5.7 and got a 20-second notification there from that earthquake that struck in Nevada around that time. So, it's useful. So, I would definitely download that. Aside from that, folks, I think that is about it. Hope everyone has a good, safe, and fun Friday night. I don't really have much going on here. Just going to relax a little bit and then probably call it bedtime. It's 9 o'clock here, so I don't see myself staying up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning like I used to. I'm not cut out for that anymore. I don't see the purpose. But hey, to each their own, right? Have a good one. We'll see you guys back out here in the morning for the Saturday morning update. Stay safe out there, folks.